Today I'm here to review episode 13 of The Walking Dead titled Arrow on a Doorpost. Now, this episode was alright. And let me tell you what I mean by this. I mean, Rick and the governor spent all this time talking when nothing got resolved. To me, it was pointless. At the end of the day, at the end of this episode, it only boiled down to two things that the governor wanted. First, he wanted Rick to surrender. Rick didn't want to do that. And second, he wanted Rick to give up Michonne. So why couldn't they just cut this short and just say that from the beginning? The governor himself. I'm just saying. I feel like this was dragged out. I mean, it was pointless. Both of them never got nowhere. To me, the conversation never got nowhere. It only boiled down to two things. To two things in that conversation they had. So yeah, this episode was alright. And now, before you come up, you're talking about, well, The Walking Dead it's not all about action. You don't need fighting all the time. Listen, I understand that. Matter of fact, I said last week's episode with Morgan in it was great. And what we barely had any action, well, any fighting in there in terms of gun slinging and stuff. And shooting at each other. We only had one scene with Morgan and Rick and Michonne, and we seen them fighting Morgan who was shooting at them. And we saw a couple of zombies, and I still enjoyed that episode. So you can't come on here and say I only enjoy The Walking Dead for its actions, well, for the action it have in it. No, because like I say, till this day, the first episode of season 1 is my favorite, and that barely had any action in it. In last week's episode felt like that episode felt like the first episode from season 1, Days Gone By. That's how good last week's episode was. But this episode, I felt like they stretched this out, and this felt like a side story to me, or a filler episode. I'm just saying. So it's not too much I can do with this episode in terms of doing this review. So I will give my overall thoughts in general for this episode. Now, let's talk about this. When we first start off from this episode, we left off from the previous episode. And now it's revealed that Rick is going to go meet the governor. And it's also revealed that Andrea was the one who set up this meeting. Now, this had to be out. Of course, it was off screen because we never knew Andrea set up a meeting, but it's revealed that she did. So I don't know how she set this meeting up. Did she come back to the prison and tell Rick and them about this meeting that the governor wanted to have? I don't know. Also, another thing that was missing this episode. Remember the preview they had for this episode, and we seen Tyrese and we seen Sasha guarding the walls of Woodbury. We seen Tyrese trying to shoot a zombie. We didn't see that scene in this episode. Another thing, this episode was originally named Pale Horse. Now, if you pay attention to some of the pictures that had came out for this episode, you can see Daryl rubbing a pale horse, a white pale horse. So, yeah. Next, they bring Herschel with them. Now, let me touch on this. Why would you bring Herschel out of everybody? You bring Herschel. They did this before, and let me explain this. In the first episode of season 3, titled Seed, it's revealed that Herschel was the only person that could deliver Lori's baby successfully. But yet, when they get to the prison, Rick decides to bring Herschel with him to go through the rest of the prison when he knew it had zombies. And he knew Herschel was an important element because he was the only person that could deliver her baby. But yet he still put Herschel in harm's way, which didn't make no sense. Point two. Now, a lot of people might not notice this, but Herschel is the voice of reason right now. Herschel is probably the only man that's keeping that group alive, in Rick group, because it's revealed in this episode that Rick goes to Herschel for almost everything in terms of advice, in terms of what to do next. He goes to Herschel because Herschel is old and wise. Herschel is like Dale, except he's more wiser than Dale, if you get what I'm saying. And I think he's a lot older. So Herschel is the only person that's keeping that group alive in terms of maintaining it. Because Herschel talks to Rick about everything and Rick talks to Herschel about everything. Rick even listens to Herschel because when Herschel told Rick about letting Tyrese stay, Rick was even considering that. So why would you bring him? And then on top of that, he only got one leg. Another thing I want to address. People talking about him driving with one leg. You can drive with one leg. You can, because I know people who got two legs, but they choose to drive with 1 foot or one leg. You can do that. It's possible. You can do it. Next, I want to touch on this. Rick meets the governor. Now, remember what I said in my preview discussion about Rick and how fast he was and how good he was in terms of drawing a gun, because he can draw a gun really fast. Remember in season 2 when he pulled that gun on Tony and Dave, and he was actually able to kill them before they was able to kill. He was able to kill them first before they was able to kill him. And he was able to draw that gun that fast. So look at this episode. Look how fast he was able to draw that gun on the governor. And the governor wasn't even getting his gun. He was just getting his holster thing on his waist. This is what I don't get. Okay. Rick told Andrea at the prison, you know what? I'm going to kill the governor. I don't know how. I don't know when. But I'm going to kill him. But yet, you have him in your way. You pull a gun out on him first, but you don't kill him. Let me talk about this too. Now, let me say this too. I do understand from the show perspective, yes, it's good not to kill him, because if he kills him right now, if he would have killed him, the governor's story arc would have been over. But from a real life perspective, he should have killed the governor. So I understand that. I understand that he can't kill the governor right now, but still, you mean to tell me he'll kill Thomas? Now Thomas tried the same thing that the governor did, except the governor did it way worse. The governor actually killed somebody in Rick's group. He killed Axel. He was even shooting at him. But yet when he see the governor, he don't shoot him. But a person like Thomas tries to throw zombies and tries to swing a blade at him. He kills Thomas. He stabs him in the head with a machete. He even locks Andrew outside of the prison to get eaten by zombies. But he don't kill the governor? Like I say, this episode right here was crazy. And also, let me say this. Do not, I'm going to say this. Okay, it's not, because it's revealed that they do not have the same writers for each episode. So that's the reason why I'm mainly not complaining about this episode, because this right here was a different writer. They don't have the same writers for each episode. And I understand that. So it makes perfectly sense. So moving on. Daryl and Herschel, they meet Martinez and Milton and they have their conversation and stuff. And now we see the governor and we see Rick talking. And this right here was very interesting. We seen them interacting with each other. And we see how Rick was telling him about him not being the governor, him being the town drunk, and how the governor bust open his prison. And now they're trying to resolve things, etc., etc. And here's the problem with this. The governor lies and says that it was Merle who took him. Yeah, true enough. But what nobody don't know is, well, y'all already know about it. How could they have any peace when the governor was talking about killing Rick first? See, Andrea don't even know this. Only person who knew this was Merle and Milton. The governor said that he wanted to go to the prison, kill Rick and them, and let the biters take back over the prison. He was talking about killing them first before Rick even came to Woodbury to save Glenn and Maggie. There ain't no compromising. There's not. And let me talk about Andrea. Now, she sets up this meeting with these two. And as I stated before, Andrea can't trust them. And how you know Andrea can't trust them? Because when she went to the prison, they told her everything about the governor. But yet, I find something funny. They didn't tell her about him attempting to rape Maggie. Okay. But then Michonne tells her that, yeah, the governor tried to have me killed. And if you was with me, he would have had you killed too. She breaks down. Oh, she get all teary-eyed. She start crying. Okay. So now, us as the viewers, we have this mind perspective. Now we like, yes, Andrea knows what's going on because we even seen her trying to attempt to kill the governor. And I was giving Andrea the benefit of the doubt. I was like, yeah, man, it's on now. Andrea's gonna do this. Even, and matter of fact, I even gave her the benefit of the doubt, even when she didn't do it. I was like, probably later on in some more episodes, she might do it, or somebody else might kill her. But at least she attempted to do it. So I'm like, now she know what type of person he is, and now she know she can't trust him because, like I said, Andrea knows the governor better than anybody. She know his real name. I mean, he even told her about his wife. She found out about his daughter, and like I say, she know him real good, and they somewhat close. They not really close, but they somewhat close. But yet, he lies to her about stuff. Like I said, they somewhat close. So, do you really think he would keep his promise to a man like Rick? A man he wants to kill? Like I stated before, he was already trying to kill him before they even came and attacked Woodbury. That's something Andrea don't even know until these episodes. She still don't know he had that plan. Like I say, how can you come at a peace and compromise with each other when you have one man who don't even keep his promises, meaning the governor? Don't make no sense. You can't do that because it have to be a promise involved in this. It takes two handshakes, but you got one man won't keep his promises. You can't trust the governor, and Rick knows this. And him and Rick is sitting in a room talking to each other, drinking on whiskey. What the hell is going on? And this right here makes me question the governor's character. And as I stated before, I always gave the governor the benefit of the doubt. I said, you know what? The governor might not be evil right now like his counterpart is, but I'm going to tell you what. After his daughter's Penny's death, man, the governor is going to become real dark. Tell me why the hell, what? We passed that episode, and that man ain't showing no signs of true evil yet. I always gave him the benefit of the doubt. If nobody else didn't, I did. I said at one point they want to start him off with his with some sense of his humanity still intact in him. But I said once he loses his daughter, I say he's going to lose everything. And right there he's going to just turn. But yet he's still the same. He's drinking whiskey with a guy that he wants to kill. Who does that? And then he tells Rick about his baby and tells him, Andrea tells me that your baby is for your friend, referring to Shane. That first thing came to my head about Andrea. You stupid bitch. You going around and you gonna tell him, you telling the enemy about about your friend's life. Basically, you telling him your friend's business, the enemy, the governor. But yet, when you came to the prison, you didn't tell Rick and them none. You ain't tell Rick and them none of the governor business. The only reason Rick knows about the governor was because of Michonne, Maggie, and Glenn and Merle. Andrea didn't say shit. This hoe is going up. And she knows she can't trust him. Because like I said before, she attempted to stab him in his sleep. But the hoe go tell the governor Rick's business. And he started using that against Rick. And I was so happy Rick was able to maintain. And then the governor goes on to tell him about and then Rick throws a map trying to compromise with him. What happened to this is not a democracy anymore? I mean, honestly, people, what happened to that? And Rick tells him, he gives the governor a map and he says, Woodbury takes the west. You know, he says Woodbury takes the west, takes the west at the river, and the prison takes the east. And then he goes on to say no one crosses, no one trades. You're right. And the governor doesn't agree with that. Hell, they even kick Andrea out the room. And then she gets all teary-eyed because Herschel tells her that the governor's no good, and she finds out about what he did to Maggie. Now she don't know what to do, and Herschel tells her, well, you still part of the family, and you can come back, but you're gonna have to choose a side. You're gonna choose. Meaning you're gonna have to be with us. But yet she still goes back to Woodbury. Then we have pedophile Milton looking at pedophile Milton. He tells Herschel, can I see your stump or your stoop? Meaning his amputated leg. And Herschel tells him, no way, you got to buy me a drink first. That was kind of funny. You just look at him looking like a pedophile, like he's ready to eat Herschel up. Whew. Damn, that was creepy. Then we see Martinez and Daryl, and we see them kill a couple of zombies, and they have a competition. And Daryl wins at obvious because he throws a knife in the zombie head, etc., etc. Then we see them talk, and like I say, Daryl is a very observant character because even Daryl knows. And Martinez said it ain't nothing's going to get resolved in them. Nothing. Basically, at the end of the day, they still going to fight each other in a war. And they was having a conversation, talking. And this right here was some good character development from Martinez because, like I say, Martinez will have a big role. I see him leaving the prison, coming with Rick. I don't know if he's going to set Rick up like he did in the comic book to find out where they don't know the prison at. But I don't know how this is going to play out. But Martinez tells Daryl that he lost his family, his wife, and his kids to zombies. And that right there was some very interesting character development from Martinez. That's one reason why I like this episode, because we never knew much about Martinez, but now we know how he lost his wife. Now, to sum this up, and back what I said about getting down to the two main problems when Rick and the governor had a conversation. The governor didn't want to do nothing else, so then he asked Rick, if you give me Michonne, we can end this. And then he goes on to show Rick his eye. And Rick is not dumb because Rick is a sheriff. So I'm pretty sure, I know for a fact, he's had, before the zombie apocalypse, he ran into those, well, not exactly those type of people, but he did run into people similar to that. And then and I remember at one point he did investigate those type of people. So Rick is not dumb. He knows how to investigate people, and he knows the way they think, and he knows if they're lying or not. And the governor tells him about Michonne. You give me Michonne, and this right here can end. You can have everybody in your group, etc., etc. And here's the problem. And I don't know if anybody else noticed this. Do y'all know Rick was actually contemplating? He was thinking about that. But hold up. Oh, I'm not done yet. But remember, which episode? I can't remember. Episode 11 or something. When Glenn talked to Rick, because this is when Merle comes back to the prison with Daryl. Glenn tells Rick, maybe we can use Merle as a bargain and trade him in so the governor won't mess with us again. Rick looks at Glenn and he tells Glenn, I can't do that. Now, I understand on one point why at one point why he said it, because him and Daryl is tight and he knows that Daryl and Merle is blood. Brothers understand it. And also, let me say this too. I understand that the governor never suggested that he wanted. Well, I understand that the governor never said he wanted Merle. I understand it, but still, when Glenn brought that up, he didn't say nothing. He didn't even think about it. He said, "I can't do that." But now you thinking about turning Michonne into the governor? But you wouldn't. You said no when Glenn suggested Merle Dixon, a, a psychopath. He's a murderer. I mean, yeah, he did imply that he feel bad for some of the stuff that he did in the past. But still, I was seeing Merle Dixon over there any day before I think about sending Michonne to the governor. Michonne was the one who saved Herschel's life when the governor came to attack the prison. I'm telling you right now, don't mess with my girl Michonne. I love my katana wielding, slice and dicing, dread weighing, black Michonne. Don't mess with my girl Michonne. Like I say, Michonne is a very important element in The Walking Dead, especially in the comic books. So yeah, leave my girl Michonne alone. And I know the way Rick thinks. Ain't no way in the world Rick is going to take Michonne and trade her in for their freedom in terms of them being able to live in freedom. He's not going to do that because Rick admitted himself that Michonne is important to the group now. Even Herschel said it. So yeah, but don't mess with my girl Michonne. And then we see Glenn and Merle have a fight because we all know Merle loves his brother. And Merle want to go with Glenn. Well, want to go with Daryl is at, and he don't want Daryl's life in risk. And Merle is hot-headed. He does try to leave the prison with the weapons, and Merle and Glenn stops him. And this is another thing I want to talk about. You mean to tell me Rick would leave Merle Dixon around? He would leave Merle in the prison without any supervisor? Because yeah, of course he loved Daryl. He loved Glenn because he feels that Glenn is a leader. He has potential to be the leader, at least the third leader. Because Daryl to me is the second. And Rick is always the first because that's my favorite character. That's my boy. But still, you leave Merle Dixon there without nobody over him. The only person I know that can really control him is Daryl. But yet, you leave him there around a whole bunch of guns. And I remember at one point, he had Michonne sleeping in a bus. Well, he didn't have a bus. She was in a bus outside of the prison. But Merle Dixon is in a prison with around a whole bunch of guns. Then we see Merle have a fight. We have him and Glenn have a fight. And here come Beth. Woo! Y'all know how I feel about Beth. Now, Beth as a character, I like Beth. But you know how I feel about that singing. Beth shot a gun. When Beth shot that gun, I'm like, oh shit. Oh man, Beth is on. That's my girl right there. Beth, you better not sing. Woo. I can't take none of that. And don't bash me. Don't bash me for what I said about Beth singing. But yeah, make sure if I covered everything. I think I pretty much, and like the governor, he brings up the thought telling Rick about his wife, and the governor tells him how he lost his wife in a car accident. We already knew that. That wasn't nothing new. And now, for the ending part, the governor still is going to kill Rick and them, and it's obvious because he tells Milton about when they go to the seed, that little seed store they was having a conversation in him and Rick. He's to bring extra men because they're going to kill Rick and basically they want to take Michonne and kill the rest of them. And Milton and he say he don't want to slaughter, and Milton says that is a slaughter. And then when the governor goes on to say, not on our end. And that's how you know Milton doesn't agree with the governor did. Because if you remember, In episode 3 of this season, I don't know if you paid attention, but you will see the governor talking. Well, after the governor kill those U.S. soldiers, he goes back to Woodbury. He tells them this sob story about how the zombies killed these soldiers. Then you can see him go to Milton, and he's telling Milton, if you pay attention, to kill Lieutenant Wells. Now, remember Lieutenant Wells they had decapitated Lieutenant Wells' head. And you can look at Milton's face and see his face expression. You can tell he doesn't agree with this. You can also tell that he didn't agree with the zombie gladiator fights. So I think Milton will be leaving Woodbury, or he will leave the governor pretty soon, because he doesn't condemn with what he does, or condone with what he does. And we see how Rick goes back, and he lies too, just like the governor lies, because the governor tells Andrea that they're going to meet and they got everything, but yet he don't tell Andrea what type of conclusion him and Rick came to, meaning that they want to kill Michonne. And then Rick goes back to the prison, and he tells the rest of them about what happened. And he lies too and says that the governor wants the prison and he wants to kill him. Yes, the governor wants to kill him, but he says he does not want the prison. Let's make that clear. And basically, he didn't want to tell him about Michonne, that he wanted Michonne. And like I say, now Rick is contemplating. He know he can't trust the governor. He know the governor wants to kill all of them. But then he says, but what if the governor really wants Michonne? And Herschel says he a killer. And that's when and then I want Rick. And then Herschel says, why are you telling me about this? Because Rick actually tells him about his daughters and stuff. And etc. and talking about, would you sacrifice them, would you let them die over Michonne and stuff? And then Herschel asks him, why you telling me this? And then Rick tells him about I wanted to get your, basically I wanted your answer on this. I wanted to see what you had to say about this. So overall, this episode was it was good. It was alright, but like I say, the governor and Rick stuff kind of got carried out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this simple review. Wasn't much I can do with this episode. Subscribe, rate, comment, talk about it in the comment section down below. And peace.